All right. Here we are, Neil Ratner Rock Doc. Let's hear that again. All right, that's better. Neil Ratner Rock Doc here with a story. Okay. So this past week would have been Steve Marriott's 72nd birthday. Now, Marriott was a founding member of both the Small Faces and Humble Pie and is recognized, especially by his peers, as one of the greatest rock and roll singers and frontmen of all time. And he was just a little guy, a little over 4'10" or something. Now, Steve died at the age of 44 after his house caught fire, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. Now, I went on tour with Steve Marriott and Humble Pie for a few weeks when I was special assistant to their manager, D. Anthony. Now, Steve and I partied together, and I got to know him a bit. But as usual, let me tell you a little background first. All right. Now, in 1959, at the age of 12, Steve formed his first band. A big fan of Buddy Holly, Marriott took to wearing large-rimmed glasses with the lens removed and even had his bandmates call him Buddy. Now, Steve's father, Bill, saw that his son had talent, and when he spotted an ad in a London newspaper for a replacement for the part of the Artful Dodger in Lionel Bart's musical Oliver, based on the Dickens tale Oliver Twist, he immediately signed Steve up for the audition. The only problem? He never told Steve. But Steve was a good sport about it. It was all good. He auditioned, and lo and behold, he got the part, appearing in the show for about a year. And he also sang a couple of tunes on the album, including the popular song, Consider Yourself. You know, consider yourself. Okay, and by the way, the 13-year-old Marriott got paid all of £8 a week. So, it seemed that Marriott was headed for a career as an actor, but not so fast. After a few more roles, Steve became bored and decided to go back to his other love, music. Now, Steve and David Bowie were very good friends at the time, and the two even considered going on the road as an R&B duo called David and Goliath. But obviously that never happened. Now, Marriott had been working at a place called the J60 Music Bar in London, which is where he met Ronnie Lane. The two really hit it off, and the band Small Faces was born. But after about 4 years and a fair amount of success, Steve became bored again. He was a real hyperactive, high-energy guy, and it was hard to keep his attention sometimes. He became bored and frustrated, and at a New Year's Eve gig in 1968, he walked off the stage, yelled back to the band, "I quit!" That was it. Now, Marriott wanted a new band, and he also wanted to play with Peter Frampton, who had just left his band, The Herd. So that's exactly what happened. Marriott, Frampton, Greg Ridley, and Jerry Shirley formed the band Humble Pie. Now, according to Pie drummer Greg Shirley, Steve specifically wanted to stand at the back of the stage and let Peter be the front man. He wanted us to be like the band, where they're sharing the vocals and playing musical chairs instrument-wise. That's what Humble Pie were trying to do in the beginning. You know, I get amazed every time I hear these stories about people wanting to be like the band. The band were just this incredible group. I mean, George Harrison came up here to play with them and hang out with them. Eric Clapton wanted to be in the band. Many, many others, and now we hear about Humble Pie wanted to model themselves after the band. Unbelievable. Okay. But after 2 albums and only moderate success, the band switched labels and signed with A&M. But more importantly, they switched managers and signed with my old boss, D. Anthony. Now, D was something else. I wrote about D in my book, A Rock Doc, which, by the way, you can still get an autographed copy by going to my website, neilratnerrockdoc.com. Far left by the book. I'll autograph the book for you. All right, if not, on Amazon, ebook, audiobook should be out this week. All right, let me read a little bit about my first impressions of D. Anthony. A lawyer I knew got me an interview with D. Anthony, a well-known manager who was in need of an assistant. D could have been a character in one of the Godfather movies. Born in the Bronx as Anthony Daddario, he was Italian through and through, short and heavy set, with salt and pepper hair and a full beard. D managed Humble Pie, Peter Frampton, the J. Giles Band, and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. He was extremely knowledgeable, well-respected, and rumored to be connected. Whether or not he was didn't matter. He was like Don Corleone to his groups, and they seemed to enjoy treating him that way. D and I hit it off immediately. When he asked about my family background, I told him that my father and uncle owned a trucking and warehousing company, and that as a kid, I often went to work with my father. He got a big kick out of the fact that I considered the shop stewards Dutch uncles. He hired me that day as a special assistant and began teaching me the business right away. Neil, this is the most important lesson I can teach you. Number 1, get the money. Number 2, remember to get the money. Number 3, don't forget to always remember to get the money. His groups were doing very well. Humble Pie's Rockin' the Fillmore was rising up the charts. A few months later, the boys in the band gave him a Silver Cloud Rolls Royce as a thank you. See? Stick with me, Dee said, looking at me. And you'll have a few of those by the time you get to be my age. D. Anthony, man. Now, D had a very different idea for this band, Humble Pie. He devised a plan to crack America, work on stage presentation, move Marriott to the front, and tour relentlessly. And the strategy paid off. In many ways, there was always this uncontrollable energy pent up in Steve Marriott waiting to get out. And in the end, he couldn't resist being the front man. Even Peter Frampton was impressed. According to Frampton, oh, it was something to behold. Imagine being in the audience and seeing a little white guy on stage, standing 4 foot nothing, and every time he opens his mouth, a black man's voice comes out. And he's got all this bravado that comes from who knows where. He'd sing instructions to them in gospelese. It was riveting. And I'm telling you, man, if you're not familiar with Humble Pie and Steve Marriott, just listen to their album, Rockin' the Fillmore, with the two, Marriott and Frampton, trading guitar licks, alternating vocals. But it couldn't last. Frampton left shortly thereafter, wanting to go in a less heavy direction, and Humble Pie went on to record their next album, Smokin', which became a top 10 album. But in 1975, the relationship between Marriott and Dee turned sour, and the band was over. Now, there are all kinds of stories about what happened between Dee and Steve, and I'm not going to go into them. This is what bandmate Jerry Shirley had to say. There were recriminations, lots of finger-pointing from Steve. Some of the stories about Dee are complete nonsense. There's been a lot of exaggeration. But it was a shame to see a great relationship between an artist and a manager break down like that. Did it break down because of money? It broke down because of cocaine. But cocaine and money are closely related. Steve had lost his marriage in '73, which devastated him, and there were huge amounts of cocaine. Those were the real culprits, not D. Anthony. Yeah, I could vouch for that. There were huge amounts of cocaine around, and it did control a lot of what went on, be that as it may. And Steve, unfortunately, was never really the same after that. He tried to reform Humble Pie. He did some solo stuff. In the early 90s, he was even planning a new album with Frampton and recorded some stuff in the U.S. But after returning home, arguing with his girlfriend, and drinking copious amounts of alcohol, taking some Valium, he ended up in bed in his home, passed out with a cigarette burning, and that was that. Unfortunately, another sad rock and roll ending. But that's the way it was. And at least we have a lot of good Steve Marriott music to listen to. So that's my story. Again, if you want my book with an autograph, go to neilratner.com, neilratnerrockdoc.com. On the left, buy the book. I'll autograph it any way you want. And I have a favor to ask. If any of you have bought the book and read it and liked it, if you could go to Amazon and write a review for me, I would really appreciate it. And only honest reviews, please. You don't have to make it any more or less than what you thought of it, okay? So, that's it. Neil Ratner Rock Doc. Let's hear the... That's it for today. I'm going to try a live video this week on Wednesday as opposed to doing them all on the weekend. I'm going to try doing one during the week. So that's it. Have a great rest of the weekend. If you're a football fan, enjoy the Super Bowl. You know, it's Super Bowl weekend here in America. I'll be back on Wednesday with another live story. I'll be back again next weekend. And that's about it. Neil Ratner, Rock Doc, signing off for now. And I'll see you guys real soon. And don't forget, Amazon, a review. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. Bye now.